by confronting the past. Please welcome Paul Normandin.
It was just the two of us in the car. We were driving to the first oncology appointment I was to attend with her. Her diagnosis was recent, stage 3. I thought this might be the last opportunity to talk to her about a subject we had not discussed in over 40 years. I should not have had a secret agenda. But some secrets stay buried so long, they're just hard to pull back up. She was having one of her rare good days. I used my least confrontational voice, the voice I use when I want something simple, irrelevant, but I feel compelled to ask anyway. I said, "Mom, whatever happened to that guy who sexually molested me?" The pause that followed made me think she hadn't heard the question. I started to panic. A panic that I had lived with for decades, living in fear of what I might say, or worse, what she might say. Do I ask again? If she heard it the first time and was ignoring me, if I asked again, this might turn into one of her not so good days. And then I heard her. "You know, you took too long to tell us about that." I felt my blood burning. Like every person ever raped, I felt the shame of blame. I felt the anger that is always just below the surface start to boil, streaming into my hands, holding the steering wheel. But after 40 years, I had learned to turn the flames down, to agree to the premise, and simply accept the blame. Then I tried desperately to back out of the conversation. I tried to remind myself that my mother was left alone for months at a time with 3 young children in Cape Canaveral, Florida, while my father was out to sea. She was 1,000 miles and so many years from the Rhode Island of her youth, and all the people she knew and trusted. Dad was working on the Apollo project for NASA. This was a huge job for a man who had never graduated from high school. Mom had never finished high school either, but she wanted to. She was working on it now, in spite of being in her late 20s. I remember my molester, his truck, and his dogs. I remember his smell. I remember his voice. Sometimes I still hear his voice in crowds. Sometimes I smell that smell. Wet dogs and cigarettes. I remember he came by the house to ask my parents if he could take me camping. As he approached us, I slipped behind my mother like a shy 2-year-old. I was not. Mom had on a floral print sundress that day. It was yellow with red flowers, probably poinsettias. They've always been her favorite. It was months after that encounter in 1971 that they figured out what he had done to me. We were alone in the house when they confronted me. My father took me by the shoulders. They both looked down at me. I closed my eyes to hide from them. I confessed. In hindsight, I'm sure they were not mad at me, but anger just feels like anger when you're young, sometimes even when you're older. When Dad left NASA, we moved to Houston. Years had passed without a word. After we left Florida, Mom, now with her high school diploma in hand, got a job. This was a big deal. The diploma made her confident. The new social norms of women working gave her courage. The dangers of Florida were behind us. She was emboldened. Norman Rockwell could have painted the picture of that morning. A summer Saturday morning, Mom, Dad, the oldest son, sitting around a sun-drenched breakfast table, reading the paper together. Back in 1975, news came in the form of newspapers delivered to your door. Even Mom, strangely, was reading the paper that day. She was transfixed by an article on the front page. When she finished reading the article, she had tears in her eyes. She shoved the paper into Dad's hands and moved around the table. As she approached me, she wrapped her arms around me as she wept. Dad read the page, then slid the paper around the table to me. He too got up and walked around the table, putting a hand on each of us. The Houston police had just apprehended a serial killer, an old man, who had raped and murdered many young boys. They were searching for his accomplices. I was afraid, at least for a moment, to even glance. And then I stared at the picture. He was not the man I knew in Florida. But for a moment, we had all acknowledged this could have happened to me. I too could have been one of those raped dead boys. There were no words spoken at the table that day, at least none that I remember. I don't think any of us understood the permanence of such scars on a child or on a family. It took my mom having cancer and the threat of her dying for me to even broach the subject again. But the pain and the stigma seemed too much for either of us, even 40 years later. I drove on, my curse blessing me with no fierce tears. My rage was checked by my secret and my shame. My fist gripped the steering wheel until I hurt. The pain in my fingers was a good release. I wanted to swing those fists. I wanted closure. I really shouldn't complain. The quiet refilled the car. My boiling blood returned to a static 98.6. The secret returned to its place. All is as it was before. She looked over at me and said, "We told the sheriff, but that man was long gone by the time you told us." For a moment, my heart leapt at this news, that there was something done, that something happened afterward. And then I heard the words she had said at the end, and I realized in her mind I was still to blame. "You must think I hate my mother." I don't. There's a thin line